Hello and welcome to the Daily Fantasy 5 for this Sunday, July 7th. This is episode 137, and we are bringing you the 5 things you need to know every day in the world of fantasy sports. Today, we're having an all football fantasy show. Today, we're going to break down our mock draft that we did where we picked a tight end early. This will be a 12-team PPR mock draft. We're also going to talk about what to do if you get pick number 5 in a 12-team snake draft. Okay, and I'm using a kind of a half-point PR. So it's kind of a mix between PPR and non-PPR because I play on FanDuel. You all know that. We do FanDuel every week for our weekly fantasy, a daily fantasy format. So pretty much I'm always thinking about half point per reception. If you guys are, wondering, this is a PPR, non-PPR. That's kind of how I always look at things. But this mock draft was specifically for PPR. And like I said, Jeff Ratcliffe, I listened to a podcast. He's Pro Fantasy Football. He does the podcast over there, Jeff Ratcliffe. He does a great job. He's saying that you have to take running back at pick number 5, and I vehemently disagree. So we're going to go over that as well on today's show after a quick word from our sponsor, www.mathradio.com, where you can pick up a math class online for as little as $9.99 for your kids ages 7 through 17 to help them get better grades, score higher on exams, and even get into college. Go to www.mathradio.com. All right. So today we're going to start with the mock draft talk. So again, this is a 12-teamer. I had pick number 7 in this draft. It might have been 8. I think I had pick 8. So let's break it down and see what we did. In round 1, Davante Adams fell to me, a wide receiver from the Green Bay Packers. You know I love to take him or Hopkins as my first overall pick. This made me very, very pleased, and I was happy. At the turn, pick number 2, I took Juju Smith-Schuster. So I went wide receiver, as we are known to do here, as long as I don't have one of the first 4 picks. If I do have a top 4 pick, I will take running back because those top 4 running backs are all elite, and I want one of those guys. Other than that, I'm taking wide receiver. I think the value's there. We've talked about that a bunch of times on these shows. It's simply that if you take one of these other running backs, like let's just take a look. Just as far as like where I see the players finishing, I have who do I have outside my top 10? Le'Veon Bell outside my top 10, Todd Gurley outside my top 10. So those are Joe Mixon outside my top 10. Those are all guys that people draft in the top 10 that I just don't see there. So I can't draft those guys in the first round of my drafts. They just simply don't make sense. And I mean, guys I love like James White, you don't have to grab that high. James Conner, David Johnson, if you want David Johnson, he's number 7 for me. You'll probably have to take him in the first round. I have Melvin Gordon as my 8th running back. But again, I'd rather have some of those wide receivers before him. So Nick Chubb, also another guy that you don't have to take in the first round that I think is a running back 1 value. So that's why I do not take a running back until at least the 3rd round. And in this draft, I didn't take a running back until the 4th round. So let's get to it. In round 3, I took George Kittle. We've been talking tight ends all week. I wanted to see what happened if I grabbed one of those elite 3 tight ends. You got your Kittles, your Hurts, your Zach Ertzes, and your the guy from Kansas City whose name is eluding me right now, which is Travis Kelce. So Kelce and Kittle were both gone. So I went with Zach Ertz in round number 3. I'm sorry, I didn't go with Zach Ertz. I went with George Kittle. Kittle was still on the board. Then in the 4th round is where I went running back for my next 4 picks in rounds 4 through 7. I took Adam Jones as my running back number 1 from Green Bay. Then I took Chris Carson, running back number 2. I think that's a great value in the 5th round. In the 6th round, Mark Ingram fell to me. I couldn't believe it. I was very, very pleased. And then I was able to snag Tariq Cohen. I wasn't planning on taking a running back there. I thought he would be gone, but he was the number 1 player on my board. And I don't mind going – since I didn't take a running back until the 4th round, I don't mind going heavy. Running back here because I think I got a nice stable of running backs on my team. Pick number 8, I went back to Calvin Ridley. Not a guy I got very often in these drafts, but he fell for some reason. So I snagged him. I felt very good about that. I don't mind Ridley as my wide receiver 3 at all. Sanders, the rookie from Philadelphia, fell to me at pick number 9. I was very pleased with that. And I was still able to grab Henderson in the 10th round, the rookie out of the Los Angeles Rams. I think that's also great value. So, I didn't mind picking tight end in the 3rd round. I felt like players just kind of fell to me all draft long, and this was, one of the best drafts I think I've had this season. So I kind of like taking one of these elite tight ends at number 3. So yeah, So that's 2 lottery picks, 2 rookies with picks numbers 9 and 10. So now I'm up to 6 running backs and only 3 wide receivers. In round 11, I had a choice. My top rated player on the board was Jones, Rondell Jones out of Tampa Bay. And then there were some wide receivers here at this point that I could have drafted as well. I forget who was on the board right here. This is what, the 11th round. We're talking about guys like Dante Pettis, I think, was still on the board at this point. Corey Davis had gone earlier. I would have taken Corey Davis. He was the one that went right before this pick. I would have taken Corey Davis ahead of Rondell Jones. Who else was right here? There was one other wide receiver that I was considering, but I decided to take Jones. I just thought he was a better value. So that left me a little bit thin on the back end of my wide receiver hunt. So I ended up taking Hardman with my next pick at number 12. So that was my wide receiver number 4. With pick number 13, I went with my quarterback, Phillip Rivers. Seems like he falls in every single draft, so you can definitely wait on quarterbacks. At this point, there was a lot of good quarterbacks left. Guys like Trubisky. Who else was still out there at this point? There was a ton of guys to choose from, but I decided I wanted to go ahead and pick my guy there because at the last pick, I've got like 4 sleepers at this point that I feel good about all of them, so I don't really care who I get. But yeah, Trubisky was still there. Lamar Jackson was still there. Garoppolo, Josh Allen, guys like that were all still there in the 13th round. I think my plan in every single draft going forward is going to be draft quarterback in round 13 because you've got a ton of guys to choose from. If you feel good about your team and the team depth, you can take a quarterback in rounds 13 and 14. I like going with a combination of Phillip Rivers and Lamar Jackson or Jimmy Garoppolo, somebody that's got a really high upside. And that way, I've got the safety in Rivers, and I've got the upside if Garoppolo or Lamar Jackson takes off. I've got a league winner right there at quarterback. But I felt a little bit thin at wide receiver. So what I did is I took Adam Humphries as my last pick. We talked about Humphries during the wide receiver week. He is very reliable. He's like a high floor type guy, very low ceiling. But if he needs to fill in for me in any given week, he should be able to. As I only really have 3 wide receivers that I trust. Hardman is a total lottery ticket at wide receiver 4. But my top 2 guys should start every week for me. So I shouldn't really need to start Adam Humphries ever if things go well. So that's my team. I didn't even stick around for the defense and kicker. I don't care. I usually take the same defenses and kickers every week. My defenses typically I pick around last. So sometimes I get the Broncos or the Texans. I've gotten the Browns before. I've gotten the Eagles. One of those teams that's just kind of in the middle. But I don't, defense is like one of the hardest things to predict in fantasy. So I'll end up streaming is what I always do anyway. I kind of like it. I think it's fun. And then kicker, yeah, I just pick whichever one is the top rated. I don't care at all. So that was my mock draft for that I did yesterday. I thought it was great. Again, let me just break down my starting lineup. I got Adams and Juju Smith-Schuster as my wide receiver 1 and 2. George Kittle as my tight end. My quarterback is Phillip Rivers. Running backs, I have Jones and Carson. On my flex, you could start Ingram, you could start Cohen, you could start Ridley, any of those guys. And then we have on the bench, running backs Ingram, Cohen, Ridley, Sanders, Henderson, Jones, wide receiver Ridley, Hardman, and Humphries. So I love this team. If this was my team going into day 1, I would be super, super happy. Okay, so let's talk about who to pick at number 5. So like I said, Jeff Ratcliffe on his podcast, Pro Football Focus, went through a first 2-round mock draft or basically it was a first-round mock draft. But he did this on the speculation that if you don't take a running back, as your first pick, you're not going to have any talent left. Well, I think I just proved that where I went wide receiver, tight end, and we've got plenty of good running backs with Aaron Jones, Carson, Ingram, Cohen, Sanders, Henderson, Jones. So I love this staff of running backs. But let's just go through it. So pick number 5. Most likely, Barkley, Elliott, McCaffrey, and Kamara are all going to be gone off the board. They're the elite 4. They go on 1 through 4 in almost every single draft. Now, if they don't, like let's say somebody throws in a wide receiver or even a quarterback or I don't know, anything like that, I'm going to snag whichever guy isn't picked. So if McCaffrey falls to 5, I'll take him. Kamara, I'll take him. Whatever. I'm happy with either of those top 4 elite running backs. But if you look at ADP, the next guy coming off the board is Le'Veon Bell. Too many questions for me. I'm not drafting Le'Veon Bell. Melvin Gordon, injury history, plus he has some competition there in Los Angeles, so I don't love him either. And then you get down to my guys. DeAndre Hopkins, and Devontae Adams. So if I have a pick in the top 8, and if I have picks 5 through 8, I want one of those 2 wide receivers, Hopkins or Adams. Okay, because like after that, if you don't like any of those players, you got guys like Todd Gurley, David Johnson. Those are your running back choices. James Conner at the turn. Yeah, no, thank you. I'm not taking any of those guys at number 5, 6, 7, and 8, especially number 5. So I am going with DeAndre Hopkins or Devontae Adams, whichever one you like. I end up with Adams like every time. I trust his quarterback a little bit more. I'm a little bit worried about the Houston situation. So I'm going with Green Bay's Devontae Adams as number 1 overall. Then on the turn, right, we're going to have pick number 20. So at this point, you're going to have your choice of, your Joe Mixons of the worlds, Dalvin Cook, Leonard Fournette. I don't like any of those running backs. So that's kind of what Jeff was talking about, where at the turn, you don't really have one of those elite guys. He likes Dalvin Cook. I don't particularly. He also likes Joe Mixon. One of those guys will typically drop to you there at number 20, but I don't like any of them. For me, I want to go ahead and get out there and grab one of this group of Odell Beckham Jr., Antonio Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster. One of those guys will typically fall to me at number 20 because someone's going to take Patrick Mahomes. Someone will take Joe Mixon. People are worried about running backs. Somebody will take Dalvin Cook, right? Somebody will make a mistake and take Leonard Fournette, or even if I have to take Mike Evans, right? He's pretty safe, ADP 23 to pick up at number 20. So I'm going wide receiver. So I'll end up with something like Adams and Juju Smith-Schuster, like I did in my recent mock draft. Okay, I'm very happy with those 2 at tight end. Now at pick 29, is it 29? I think it's 29. You come back and you pick up, I'm going to pick up a tight end, all right, or another wide receiver typically because I don't like Derrick Henry or Devontae Adams. If Nick Chubb is still there, yeah, I'll grab Nick Chubb. But I don't mind not having a running back at all in these first 3 rounds, right? I know people think I'm crazy for saying this, but I'm very happy if I have a wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, and even wide receiver 3 in my first 3 rounds because there's so much value late at running back, at least in my opinion, because our next pick is going to be 44. So let's take a look at this. We've got guys like Kerryon Johnson, Phillip Lindsay, Damian Williams, and Aaron Jones, all typically available around that 44. At least there will be 1 or 2 of those guys to choose from, right? And I like all those guys. I don't have a problem. I don't really love Damian Williams. I think it was a product of his environment. I think Carlos Hyde is going to take that job at some point, but people love Damian Williams. I prefer Aaron Jones. He's being taken 42nd, so it's a little bit of a reach that'll get him there at 44, but I don't mind having Phillip Lindsay. Lindsay's being taken at pick number 52. People like Kerryon Johnson. There's a ton of running backs at this group to grab who I don't mind as my number 1 running back. All right, then in the next round at 53, okay, we're going to line up with a lot of good running backs right here. Personally, I'm going to try to grab James White. Okay, he's my guy. He's going at 56 overall. I'll risk it for the biscuit and try to get White here as a steal in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th round. Unless I'm really nervous and running backs are going off the board like crazy, I might grab him in the 4th if nobody I like is there. But James White is a great option here. Chris Carson is going at pick number 56, so he's also an option. Who else is there? And guys like you might be able to get Ingram. Also in this group, he's going at pick number, I think, 51. So there's 3 guys that you can draft right there. So right now, we've got a starting lineup of, let's say, Adam Jones and James White. I love those 2 running backs. That makes me very happy. And then pick number 6, go ahead and take one more running back. My guy that I always get in the 6th round is Tariq Cohen. He's going at picks number 74. We would be taking at pick 68. So it's not a huge cushion, but it's not bad either. There's also guys like Kenyon Drake and other running backs there that you can take. So if you end up with your first 3 running backs, right, that happen to be Aaron Jones, let's say you get Chris Carson and Tariq Cohen, okay, that is a very, very nice, right, 1, 2, 3 punch at running back. And now you have elite wide receivers, an elite tight end, and a decent stable of running backs, which is exactly what we did in our mock draft, which is why I don't think you should be picking running back at picks 5 through 8. Now, if you get past the 2 top wide receivers, let's say you are pick number 9, and Adams and Hopkins are both gone, all the best running backs are gone, then if you want to grab somebody like David Johnson, James Conner, I'm totally fine with that. But you can still stick with the wide receiver and take, Michael Thomas or Julio Jones. So at that point, it's totally different. Maybe we'll do a podcast next week on what to do if you have a late pick, picks 9 through 12. So we'll talk about some strategies there. But that is what I would advise. Wow, this show has gone long today. I want to thank our sponsor, www.mathradio.com. Go there to pick up an online math course for as little as $9.99 to help your child ages 7 through 17 get better grades in school, score higher on exams, and even get into college. Mathradio.com. Also, if you are watching on YouTube, we would appreciate it if you pound that subscribe button, tell a friend, and leave us a comment or question in the comments below. And then if you're listening to the podcast, thank you very much. We'd love a 5-star rating, and we'd love a review of whatever podcast you're using. We appreciate it. And we will talk to you tomorrow, Monday, where we're going to start talking about what? I don't know, fantasy stuff. All right. Bye, y'all.